Good evening, everybody. Welcome to you. Yeah, so lovely to be with each of you. Big news, we're going to have a retreat coming up on November 3rd through the 5th, another weekend online retreat. So I do hope that you can join us for that. Yeah, for those of you who have never joined, retreats are always a powerful experience, an experience that has the potential to change our lives forever. That's quite a sales pitch, but I just want you to come if your heart feels called. So anytime we listen to our heart, like a deep call from our heart, whatever that step is, whatever that doorway is, it has the potential, the possibility to change our lives forever. I would be a radically different person had I never been on a spiritual retreat. I'm not sure what I would be. I would guess I would just be like one of my brothers, and they're pretty all right fellas. But there's this different level of experience and realization that comes online. This whole other world of divinity that becomes possible to us. And so this upcoming retreat, we're going to focus on stepping into reality. And while this is a very basic teaching, stepping into reality, the importance of it is so necessary. So necessary. When we come into reality, we are coming into a basic sanity where we are no longer being pulled, moved by the thoughts in our mind or by the emotions in our body. But rather, we are moved by the truth. By the truth. And so I thought we might start by speaking about reality. But sometimes if we just speak about reality, it becomes like a philosophical orientation. What I'd invite all of us to do in this moment is to close our eyes and let's just get in touch with our breath, dropping into the space of the heart. And finding that clear, quiet presence within. A presence which is universally good and undivided. And so if I ask you in this moment, as you feel inside, as you come into contact with your heart, can you find this truth within you, which is undivided? A truth within you which is not aggravated or irritated or grasping or wanting. Can you find this quiet place within you? Which is whole and complete and okay. Now, for some of you, it might be helpful as if you breathe a little more deeply, letting go of the attachment to the mind, letting go of the story of the mind, maybe soothing some of the emotions, calming them down, bringing them, almost like returning them to peace. For some of us, it's hard just to step right into reality. But as we continue to breathe, I invite you to notice the quiet peace which is here. This gentle spaciousness and stillness. An inner radiance. And as we begin to breathe more fully, we might again just notice that your heart, our heart, the one heart, is innately good. Is innately radiant and pure. And as you feel down into your lower abdomen, I invite you to see if you can notice this feeling of a quiet strength, nobility, almost like the strength of a mountain. Now again, if we feel purely into our thinking mind may have all kinds of things to think about. But just for this moment, this short little bit, can we give up on our thinking mind? And can we descend into our experience, the truth of our experience, the depth of our experience? You can even feel around in the space of your mind. And I invite you to feel into the spaciousness, the emptiness, the expansiveness of the mind. And just noticing, what is it like to experience the reality of true nature? That the mind is inherently spacious and free. The mind is awake and aware, hearing the sound of my voice, feeling the warmth, the coolness of the breath, connected to experiencing an inherent sense of aliveness, radiance, opening to this quality of strength and aliveness which shines into eternity. And so beautiful. So I welcome you to Satsang. I welcome you here to this moment, to this moment. And it's a great question at any point on the path to ask ourselves, do I live? Am I living? Am I in reality in this moment? And so for those of you with your eyes closed, you just notice to be in reality is to be with your experience directly. Or am I lost in a fantasy in my mind? Am I lost in a fantasy in my emotional nature? Am I lost in a fantasy in the past or the future? Can I be in the reality of this moment? Of this moment? The spaciousness, the radiance, the quiet strength and nobility of your being. And so if you like, you can open your eyes, if you keep them closed if you want. And so I thought I'd just start tonight by sharing a little story. Yesterday, my oldest daughter, I think she's 22. She might just be 21, but she called me and she said, "Hey, Dad, would you take me and a friend of mine rock climbing?" And I said, "Sure, sure, I'll take you. I'll take you." And like so much of our life, like we're just like kind of like walking around our house, or and even when we're driving our cars, we can be mostly asleep at the wheel, which is a crazy thing to say, like if we're driving a car, but most people are. They're kind of spaced out. Maybe they're texting, maybe they're listening to some music. And, there's some level of them that's driving the car. But let's say if we're walking around the house, many of us can just be, um, I'll say something. This is actually sexist towards men, but my wife and her friend were talking. They were saying, well, in their next lifetime, they want to incarnate as a man, so they can just walk around the house and just say do 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 do. It's like, I guess that's what men do, is they walk around. Whereas a lot of times the women are taking care of the business. They're cooking the meals and taking care of things, making sure everything's falling into place, taking care of the kids. But um, and of course, uh, it's not really, that's not really what's happening. But for a lot of, my wife and her friend was saying, a lot of times I feel like my husband is just walking around going do 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 do, and so is being lost, just in, or maybe just thinking, and the fellow they were referring to in this moment was, he was kind of like he was the high school gym coach and basketball player, really lovely guy. I loved him. His big heart. But a lot of times he's just like walking around in circles, thinking about whatever the basketball game is. I don't have such a good sports mind, but anyways, I don't have a good team sports mind. And so, it's kind of silly. It's just kind of silly. And we could say this about any human being. There's periods in the day when they go blank, when they space out. Now, my daughter, again, to get back to the story, she invited me to go rock climbing, and I almost always, like 95% of the time, I go climbing with a group of professionals. These are elite level athletes, and they just take care of everything. I have to get up to climb, but they put it up. Like, they do the super dangerous stuff of going up for the first time. Like when you're climbing, it's the guy who goes up first. That's the real danger. After the rope is set, when you fall, you just fall on a rope. Not so dangerous. Still dangerous. Like, you still get you still get really hurt, but not nearly as dangerous. The fall won't be fatal, or shouldn't be fatal. Anyways, so my daughter had a friend coming to town, and she's like, "Hey, Dad, can you take us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take you." And so it's my job to put the rope up, so I have to go up first. And in this situation, like I kind of climbed up and I got into a spot where I was unprotected, and basically actually the whole climb up for me was unprotected. And so what that means is if I fall, I'm going to end up in a wheelchair, uh, or best case like two broken legs, maybe one broken leg and a broken head or something. But anyways, and as soon as I started getting like a little bit off the ground, where I realized, oh, like this is serious. This is serious. It's like everything in my mind shut off. There's no more do. There was no more thinking like, oh my God, like my daughter invited me to do something with her. I must be doing something right. I'm a good father. I wonder what it is, is like, because normally she's not inviting me to take her and her new, it was a guy who she was with. It's like, she has never invited me to do anything with her. And I don't know if it's a boyfriend or a friend who's a boy. I don't know. I wasn't even going to ask. I was just going to just let it be. So we can be in all kinds of thoughts about who we're with, what they're thinking. Do they like me? Am I doing something right? Am I pleasing to them? Like we can be into all that kind of thinking. But when I was climbing, all of a sudden there was no thoughts. This was business. This was life or death. Now, for a lot of people, the reason they do extreme sports is because it brings us into this reality. This reality of I am here in the present moment. I am here fully. And it's a funny thing that in our culture, some of us, we never even step into reality unless we are in a life or death situation. Like I'm going to use an inappropriate terminology, but that is an effed up type of behavior to say. The only time I come into reality is when it's a life or death situation. Like we could just come into reality through doing our homework, which I gave this week, which was sky gazing, just sitting in the backyard and looking at the hugeness of the sky, letting go of all of our thoughts, letting go of all of our emotions, and being the hugeness of the sky. So there's multiple doorways into reality. One of them is a life or death situation. So anyways, I'm here. So that situation was a living situation where I made it to the top of the climb, and I set up the rope, and then I climbed it a couple of times, and with a rope, safely. So that was yesterday. Today again, I went out with my little girl, my younger daughter. And I thought, gosh, well, I went climb with my older daughter yesterday. Maybe I'll bring my younger daughter today. And again, I had to climb up, do the climb with no rope. Set the rope for the two of us to climb. Incredibly dangerous. And I knew it right away. I was like, oh my Lord, this would be a terrible thing to fall. Die in front of my 9-year-old. I told her, listen, if Daddy falls, you grab that phone on the ground and you call your mom. And and she'll know what to do. And even saying it, I realized, gosh, that's a crazy thing, a crazy situation. But I was like, whatever. Again, like I'm a little bit of a cowboy, so I was just like, I'm just going to get up there. And I got up there, and I set the rope, and then my daughter could climb. And she climbed it twice. I was really proud of her. I was like, So happy for you, my dear. So happy. So when we're climbing, when we're doing something serious, we are in reality. We are in the moment. We are not in a fantasy of the future. We are right here, right now. Now, if we start to go into a fantasy, oh my God, what happens if I fall? Oh my God, that would really hurt. That will not help us. What helps us if we just stay in this moment and we ask ourselves, what is my next step? What do I need to do in this moment? What do I need to do? What is my next step in this moment? And this is something my teacher used to often remind me, is he would pull me out of a story and he'd ask me just this one question. Like, what's your next step? What makes sense? What is the truth? Sometimes he wouldn't ask me anything about my next step. He would say, Craig, what kind of man are you? So say I was lost in fear, or if I was lost in anger. And he'd say, Craig, what kind of man are you? Say, I'm a man of truth. And he'd say, good, what's the truth now? What's the truth of this situation? And see, a question like this brings us into the immediacy of this moment. The immediacy. Anytime we are in reality, there is an immediacy about it. There's a power, there's a hugeness, a directness that comes when we live in reality. When we are in unreality, when we are in the thinking mind, there's an indirectness about it. You know, it's like I could speak philosophy right now, and there's just an indirectness about philosophy. We're just kind of playing around with words, and with logic, and ideas. And an idea, you can't grasp a hold of it. You can't grasp a hold of it. But reality, in a funny way, like physical reality, we can grab onto, right away. Spiritual reality grabs a hold of you. It grabs a hold of you as you wake up to it. You become it. You become it. You become it. And with our homework, that's the whole invitation, is for us to walk outside and to look up at the hugeness of the sky, to feel, to experience directly the hugeness of creation. And as we open to the hugeness of creation, you begin to discover, oh, I am, we are, this consciousness is the hugeness of creation. And when you begin to experience this hugeness of creation, it's like all those little thoughts in the mind begin to disappear. Like I have never opened up to the hugeness of creation and thought, I could really use a girlfriend. I could really use a new car. I could use a new job. I could use some more money. I need a big house. I need to have 8 million followers on Instagram in order to be happy. When you open into the hugeness of creation, you become the hugeness of creation. And you don't really need anything. You don't need anything. Today, like my problem sometimes on the weekends is, especially this time of year, is I have too many plans, too many too many things I could do. Like a friend of mine, we were talking, and he's going to go on this. He went on this motorcycle ride. It's from Silverton to Lake City, Colorado. It's over a couple mountain passes. It's one of those rides that people would, if you have a dirt bike and you live in Maine, you might put your dirt bike in the back of your pickup truck and drive all the way to Colorado just to do this one trail, just to do this one ride. This is a pretty awesome ride. And I was like, oh, I want to do this. It didn't work out for me to do it. But I was sitting in my yard yesterday and just looking up at the hugeness of the sky. And the problem with waking up to reality, like the great problem, is it is excellent at killing, at destroying, at gobbling up your plans or your desires or whatever it is you want to do. Like when you open to the hugeness of the sky, like there's no thought like, I need to go do that ride. I need to go here or there. There's just a sense of, I am good. I am happy. I'm at peace. I know some of you are thinking that, why did you go rock climbing, Craig? It's to satisfy my daughters, to take them and to attend to them. That's why. But there's this problem with waking up to reality. It's very bad for the economy. If you have a desire to go shopping, and then you sit, let's say, on the back porch, maybe you have a house overlooking a lake. For those of you up north there, you might start to look at the clouds and open to the hugeness of the skies. And you're like, maybe I don't want to go shopping anymore. Maybe I don't need to go shopping. Often people drink and do various substances in order to open up to this type of space, open up to this level of relaxation. But of course, we don't have to. We can stop. We can put everything down and open to this hugeness. Now, one of the primary things that gets in the way, besides our desires, is our projections. So often when we go outside, we don't actually see reality. Because we're too busy projecting something upon it. We don't see this world. We don't hear the sound of the birds. We don't hear each other because we're busy projecting upon it. And so my question to you, if you play a little game with me, if we close our eyes, we just feel into our body and find a place of peace, find a place of clarity. I will ask you, well, what is it that you project onto reality? What is it you project onto your days? What do you project on the moment? Sometimes we have like a conditioning of the grass is always greener somewhere else. And so we just project that onto wherever we're at. It's better back at the house. We get back to the house, it's better if we were at the movie theaters right now. Be better if I had $1 million. What is it we project on the moment? Sometimes we project negativity and irritability. Some of us project that the end of the world is coming. That's a fun one to project onto reality. And then if we bring it a little closer to home, like what do you project on your partner? If you're deeply honest. If you have a partner, your mom and dad, or sister and brother, sometimes we project, my brother is supposed to be a certain way. My sister is supposed to be a certain way. My mom, mom is supposed to be a certain way. My lover, he, she, they are supposed to be a certain way. Like my wife and her friend, men are a certain way. Do. That's what men are. And so, what is it? What is it that we project on each other? What do we project on our spiritual teachers? They shouldn't be dangerous. They shouldn't climb on rocks. They shouldn't ride motorcycles. They should be safe. I noticed one of my teachers, probably many of you know this, but Adyashanti, he's just said he's retiring. And I noticed I had a projection on him. Spiritual teachers are supposed to teach until they die. Like that's what they do. They don't retire. Who retires? We don't retire. Like that's not a thing. That's not a thing. And I noticed, I was projecting some idea onto his reality. His reality is he's sick and he needs some time to heal and take care of his body and recover. And so, of course, I support him in living the truth. And the more we wake up, what we'll find is we project less on each other. We project less on life. We come more into this immediacy and we begin to see clearly, minus the projection, minus all the projections. It's one of the hallmarks of a great teacher is a great illuminated being is they're not living in projections. They're living in the present moment. They actually see us. They actually hear us. Sometimes they see and they hear things that we don't even see or hear within ourselves. That's one of the the mind-blowing things about, my relationship with my teacher. He saw my truth always. He also saw my pain and my confusion, but he saw my truth first and foremost, and he didn't judge me for my confusion. He didn't judge me. He supported me in stepping more fully into the truth. Now, some of us, we project something on, to our friends or to our partners or our parents. We try to push them to meet the expectation of our projection. We try to mold them into what we want them to be. It's like many of us had parents like that. Like my parents, they wanted me to be like, Craig, you can be a doctor or a lawyer. I was like, nope, nope, nope. I'll fail miserably at both of those, both of those. I don't tell lies, and I don't do blood and guts. So I'll fail miserably at both of those. And no offense to anyone who is a lawyer. My teacher David, he had a best friend, and his friend's name was David also. And so we'll say David too went and saw this great Indian sage, Yogi Ram Surat Kumar. And Yogi Ram lived like right across the street from Ramana Maharshi, about an hour away from Sri Aurobindo. But anyways, so I'll call him David too. He went and saw Yogi Ram, and Yogi Ram said, David, what do you do? And he said, I'm a lawyer. And Yogi Ram said, you're a liar. And he said, no, a lawyer. And Yogi Ram said, oh, yes, a liar. And David said, no, a lawyer. And he said, oh, yes, a liar. And he said, oh, yeah, a liar, a liar. And again, I know some lawyers fight for the truth, but others, play with the truth. I think that's one of the games of a good lawyer, is they can take the truth and make it work for you, or make it work against you. Take some kind of truth, some level of truth. Sometimes they just find a loophole, a game. And how many of us do we play this? Do we play these types of games, these games of manipulation? We tell a little lie or a little something to get our way. And so it's a great question. Do I live in reality? Do I live in a story in my mind? Do I live with an agenda to always dominate, to win, to outsmart? Sometimes our agenda is just to be guarded all the time. And it's a funny thing that reality does. Because reality works, it's like one of these games that works on multiple levels. There's you waking up to reality, you choosing to step into reality. But at the same time, reality is always trying to wake up in you. One of the beautiful things that reality does is, if we have an unresolved wound or a shadow, is the intelligence of reality will keep doing things, will arrange circumstances in the outer world to put pressure on our wound or on our shadow, so it will be brought into the light. I've seen this countless times in my own life, where I will have a fear or a confusion, or I'll hold on to something. And reality will come along and just start poking at that thing, putting pressure on it, arranging circumstances. So I have to face someone or something. And to me, that's such a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Because then we see it's not just me waking up to reality. It's life waking up to itself. Life waking up to itself. And so this is a great question. Again, if we just feel inside, what is it that's wanting to wake up within me, within this consciousness? Like, what is it that's here? That's wanting to wake up. What's here that's trying to be seen through? What bubble is just like right on the edge of being burst within my consciousness? It's one of those things like, again, I hate to bring up politics. I'm so tired of talking about it, but I want to talk about it again. It's like, if we are a hardcore liberal, we're going to have like a Trump supporter moving right next door. And vice versa. If we're a hardcore Trump supporter, and let's have some fun. Let's say we play pickleball, whatever that is, pickleball. That's the thing that people like to play. And we see, oh, look, our new neighbor, he plays pickleball too. And say, hey, you want to play pickleball? And we discover, oh, he's on the opposite end of the political spectrum as us. But God has brought that person here to help us to open, help us to soften, to help us to see their humanity. God didn't put that person in our life for us to judge them and say they're bad. They're so bad. They're so wrong for their stupid political beliefs. God brought them here to bring harmony. Harmony, inclusivity, acceptance, tolerance, patience, compassion, understanding. Understanding. God didn't put them here so that our blood can boil when they put up that Trump flag or that go Joe Biden. I don't know. Does Joe Biden have a slogan? I don't know if he does. Anyways, reality is inviting us to love, to be open, to be spacious, to be tolerant, to be accepting. And reality is also inviting us to walk in the direction of the truth, the greater truth and greater evolution of planet Earth. And if it's going to be the greater evolution of planet Earth, we have to learn how to do that communally. Communally. That's the beauty of it. It's not just like in the time of the Buddha where we can just follow our truth and it doesn't have much consequence. We have to do it in a way that is inclusive. Inclusive. So anyways, these are great questions for us to look at. What am I projecting? What's getting in the way of me seeing and living in reality? And there's outward reality. Like when I was climbing rocks, like, geez, it's really stupid and dangerous what I'm doing. If I fall, I'll die. Like that's outer reality. But then there's this inner reality that what you are, like the very fabric of your consciousness, is spacious, is love, and is this inherent strength, this indestructibility. And so even if I did go splat on the rocks today, I would live on. I would live on. I would live on. Because I am life. Life goes on forever. I would live on. And that's really the whole, when Jesus played that whole Last Supper game, and what was it, the blood of Christ? We always talk about that at my house. It's such a crazy thing, the blood of Christ, the wine, and the little biscuit. The little biscuit. What's that? The host. Basically Jesus was saying, I live on. I live on. Like when you drink wine, when you eat bread, I am there. I am there. I am here. Whether there's a body or no body, I am here. I am here. That's the truth of the Hara, is what we are. And the level of reality is here eternally. Now, this body may be gone. This body may be suffering greatly. If we do something stupid like rock climbing without a rope. So anyways, okay. Some people emailed some questions, so I'll get to those. If anyone has a question, you're welcome to raise your hand. Let's see if I can pull these up. Boy, I had the questions all set up. Here they are. Okay. I'm going to piggyback on this teaching on reality. This one's from Sarah. She wanted to know what book I was reading. The Life of Bhagwan Nityanandaji, Satguru Maharaj. And so that's the book by Swami Muktananda, who's a student of Nityananda. It's just the life of Nityananda. Okay. And she goes on and says, Craig, in your satsang last week, this might have been 2 weeks ago, but Don's climate change / I'm going to use this word, firearms question resonated. The conclusion that we're each contributing to the mess, while correct, can lead to feeling of meaninglessness, anger, frustration at humanity or God, or paralysis of choice. What is beyond that conclusion? Yeah. Hope. How about hope? Hope. I do not want to teach anything in a way that leads to meaninglessness, hopelessness, paralysis of choice. We always have a choice. We always have a choice. And the choice is to have faith, to have a sense of hope, or to fall into despair. Given the nature of what's going on here on planet Earth, like I've seen enough and I've been educated enough to see like all these disastrous climate change movies, or documentaries rather. And I grew up in schools that, they taught this just as just like a normal thing, that the world is going to end. It's like, that's the basic conclusion, is like we're all screwed. And there's, big ideas of, everyone having solar panels and this and that, but it's like, come on. But despite all that education, all that conditioning, I have great hope. Great hope. And I don't have hope in solar panels. I don't have hope in windmills. I don't have hope in, technology is going to save us. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. And keep in mind, like, I'm not against solar or wind or any of that stuff. And I've run solar for many years. I've installed solar units. Anyways, hope. When you connect to the depth of your being, when you connect to the truth of your heart, when you connect to the inherent spaciousness and the clarity of your being, the direct result of that, the direct experience is one of hope. Hope. It's one of trust in life. Now, I'm going to say very clearly, I don't know where the direction of humanity is going. I don't know. Like, it seems like we are on a crazy course, a ridiculous course. It seems that way. It really seems that way. If anyone's rational, it's just like, my God, it just seems really crazy. But every day, I have this flow of grace that pours down into my body. I feel it pouring down into the earth. I feel it pouring down literally into our collective consciousness. I see that God is here and that God is doing something great. I see it, I feel it, I experience it. And I have faith in that. I have faith in that. In God's will, more so than I have faith in what humans are doing and even what any of our solutions are. Because even our greatest solutions of windmills and electric cars and all this kind of stuff, it's just more stuff. It's more stuff. It's more junk. Like, and again, like maybe the junk saves us, but I don't think so. I don't think so. I have faith in something else, something greater, that somehow life goes on. And again, I am a big fan of doing all the things that are wise. Growing your own food, eating low on the food chain, not buying a bunch of junk, living in a way that's sustainable, being in the land, connecting to the land, being a part of the land. That's how our earth is designed. But my heart is open and I experience in this moment this transmission of light, of divinity that's pouring down into our species, into the planet, to the very fabric of creation. This is what I have hope in. And by all means, I encourage us to do what is wise, to do all the things that make sense. But what does not make sense to me is to disconnect from the truth, disconnect from my power, disconnect from God's power, and go into a place of anger or frustration or hopelessness or meaninglessness. Sometimes anger can be a little helpful to be like, oh, like the way we're living is crazy. Sometimes we need to get a little bit angry and do something about it. But again, like the biggest thing most people need to do is to do less, is to do less of what we're doing, all the stuff we buy and ways we package our food. And it's like plastic. My God, like, is there a way we can live without plastic? Can we find another way? Please, please, please. What is beyond that conclusion? to trust in God, to open our hearts, to do what is wise. And the thing about paralysis is, like, paralysis is a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling. But that feeling will end if you start gardening. It'll end very quickly if you start gardening. If you start growing your own food, you feel like you're part of the change instead of part of the problem. You stop buying so much plastic and so much junk. It's like we start to feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. Doing the right thing. And so if you act in alignment with the truth and with your higher values, you're going to feel much better. If we don't do anything but just listen to the news and worry about climate change the whole time, yeah, we might end up frustrated and in a sense, a state of paralysis. And so anytime like we feel like there's something great, something unresolvable, as soon as you begin to walk in the direction of the truth, as soon as you begin to face the thing, like truly face it, truly open to it, truly listen, what is it that I can do? Your experience begins to shift from a place of frustration or stagnation or hopelessness into hope and trust, and the energy's moving forward. Okay. All right. Someone raise their hand here. Let me see if I can find you. Okay. How do you say your name? Is it Promethea? You there? Let's try again.
Pratima.
Say it again.
Pratima.
Pratima. All right. Well, welcome. It's good to see you. I was going to read your email next. So you have a question about Kundalini, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What do you want to ask?
I saw your videos actually in YouTube, and most of your whatever you said that were happening to me. I had some memory loss. I had some dizziness. I would do a lot of meditations, and this would happen to me. And that is how I discovered it could be Kundalini. So how do I help myself to get well? Yeah. Because you have so much of experience. What is that?
Well, let's talk a little bit more. So is it Kundalini that you have, or is it that your consciousness is waking up and your mind is becoming blank, or both?
Both, actually. It's positive as well as negative. I would have expansion of consciousness. I think that is the point all this started. I would suddenly not feel my body, and I would freak out thinking I'm going to die. I couldn't convince myself.
Okay, now let's slow down. Let's start with that. So I want you to imagine like we're sitting here and our consciousness begins to expand. And let's say like we don't feel our body anymore, just for a little bit. You know, I actually was having this happen it's either earlier today or yesterday, I can't remember, but I just noticed it was like there was no body that was here. You know, and to me, I smile and I enjoy the freedom of having no body. I mean, let me ask you, how old are you?
40.
40. Yeah, so maybe when you get a little bit older, your body might hurt really bad. You might have aches and pains, and you might enjoy if your consciousness goes blank and, you know, the body disappears temporarily. And like, again, if we just play with it, like from a place of reality. So let's say your consciousness is expanding and the body disappears. A great question to ask yourself is, am I okay? Am I okay in this moment without a body? Now, if you ask your ego mind, it'll say, no, this is terrible. The body's dissolving. But if we just stay with our essence, if we stay with our direct experience and we start to dissolve, and I don't care if our sense of self dissolves, our body dissolves, like part of waking up spiritually is for you to know yourself as spacious emptiness. So let me ask you, like when I look at you, I see like the northern lights shining behind your head. Can you see that also?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in order for the northern lights to be here, like there has to be this spaciousness. There has to be this emptiness for those lights to come and flow and like make their waves of energy and just dance around in that spaciousness. I want you to get comfortable being this spaciousness, being the emptiness.
It creates a lot of fear in me. I
Well,
don't know how to
I know that. I'm inviting you to kind of relax and to breathe and to trust that it's okay. That it's okay. And look, this thing that you're experiencing of not having a body, it's a temporary thing. It might just disappear for what, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. But you're okay, right? Like you don't actually stop existing because there's someone who's here who's saying, where's the body at? It's not here. It's just like, no, you're still here. You're still here. And I imagine if you like grab your body, you'll feel it again, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, this is dangerous if you're driving a car and you stop feeling your body. And if that's the case, sometimes like you take your hands and I like to grab my thighs and squeeze them and just remind myself there's a body here. There's a body here. I used to have this happen to me. I shouldn't tell these stories, but I do. But I used to have this happen to me like when I'm riding my motorcycle. I had a very fast motorcycle once, and my body would disappear, my consciousness, like I would disappear. And then when I would come to, I'd be like further down the road. And it was a pretty wild thing. But I encourage you not to do that. So you just, you squeeze your body, that brings you kind of back into form. But like, what is the danger? Like, you tell me. Like, what's the danger of you sitting and your body disappearing for a moment?
The body disappears mainly when I meditate or something. So I stopped completely meditating, but because it gives me a lot of fear uh, and also I feel imbalanced actually after so much of fear, and I didn't know what to do, what is happening.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I just meditated. I just started with meditations. That's all. I didn't want all these to happen.
No, no,
I couldn't stop.
listen, I know you didn't want it to happen, but I want you to imagine this, that the creator of the universe is giving you these experiences. And she's probably not making a mistake.
I don't want it.
I don't want it. So I'm going to do this. You look at God, you look at the Divine Mother, and you say, I don't want the gifts that you are giving me. You tell her that. You tell the Creator in all of her magnificence and all of her intelligence. You look at her and say, I don't want your gifts. I don't want these experiences. I want to be a human ego don't take any offense to this, in a meat suit. That's what I want to be. Like, I just want to be a normal human being, and I don't want anything crazy. And the Divine Mother say, no, 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 my dear, you're not a normal human being. You are a divine being. You are my child. And I want to show you a greater life. Now, let me tell you something. I know I told some crazy stories about rock climbing today, but like I have a little girl and, she's just like having her normal human life. And she said, like something in her said, Daddy, I want to go rock climbing. And I said, okay. And so I'm showing her a new life, a greater life, a life where she goes up in the air instead of just being down on the ground where it's safe. I'm showing her a new life. And that's one of the things that happens as our consciousness grows, is our experience of life, our worldview will change. We'll get a greater perspective. And you know what my daughter did when she climbed up to the top of the mountain today? She said, Daddy, I can see the whole world. I can see the whole world. And see, the Divine Mother, she's wanting to show you new worlds, new realms of divinity. And so she's wanting to come into you and wake up in you. Now, if you cooperate with her, like she'll show you some pretty wild things at first, but if you breathe, if you connect with your strength, if you trust and continue to breathe and continue to open, like at first, like these new worlds will be frightening, but if we continue to breathe and trust and open, and you can squeeze your legs, and say, okay, it seems like my body's disappeared, but wait, I can still feel it. I can still feel it. It's still here. Then I must be okay. I must be okay. I must be okay. And I want you just to play with this to see, are you actually okay? And by actually okay, I mean that on a level of essence. On the level of ego, like your ego will complain anytime anything is a little bit different than how it normally is. But see, God is telling you, and I am telling you, you're greater than just an ego. You're greater than your fear. But the only way you will know this and realize this is if you're willing to play along with God. And so I'm going to encourage you not to quit meditating, but to look at God and say, like, Mother, what are you trying to show me? What are you trying to teach me? And she's trying to teach you that what you are, like what you fundamentally are, exists beyond a body. That's really good news. Because when you start to know this, my dear, then you don't need to be afraid of death. Because oh, I exist without a body. And so when eventually the body dies, I know that I'll probably live on. Because I can exist without a body. I can exist without a body. You with me?
Mm-hmm. Until
You're
all
looking
these
really
things.
nervous. You're looking real suspicious. Like, I don't
No,
know.
no, I have read all these things, but until it was some theory, it was fine. But when it's happening, I'm not fine.
So listen, my dear. When it happens, can you reach down and touch the earth? Okay, can you reach down, touch your body, touch the earth, and say, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. See, when this happened with the Buddha, he reached down and touched the earth. He said, this is what's real. It feels like I'm dying. It doesn't even feel like that. I think that I'm dying. I think I'm dissolving. But I reach down, I touch the earth. I see the earth is real. I touch my body. I see this body is real to some degree. It's still here. I'm not dying. See, before, when I was teaching, I said, what are the stories in our head? And the story in our head is often, I need to be afraid. I need to hold on to control. I need to always be in charge. like, the world fits in a box. But see, God is showing you, no, the world is much greater. Your consciousness is much greater than this box that we once viewed life from. And so can you let the walls of the box dissolve? And can you see, my dear, that you still exist? Like your mind has told you, what has your mind told you? You're dying and you're dissolving? Is that what it is?
I'm scared to die, or like I don't know what is happening, and it creates a lot of fear, and I don't want it, and I resist it.
Okay, good. I don't know what is happening. So what if we just play with this? Instead of I don't know what is happening and this is scary, if we just played with this basic truth, I don't know what is happening, but it appears that I'm okay. That I am okay. That I am. Like the essence of what you are is okay. Like you're not actually dying. You're not actually dissolving. You're simply opening into some new realms of divinity. Now, my dear, you emailed me a really different question than this one. You said, how can I stabilize all this?
Yes.
Well, right now you're telling me you're afraid of it.
I'm lost actually, so I'm not trying to come back.
Yeah. Well, so to stabilize the truth, you need to trust in the truth. You need to trust in your experience. Okay, let me ask you, where do you live?
California.
Where in California?
Fremont.
Fremont. I know. Yeah, I know where Fremont is. Yeah. Yeah, that's in the Silicon Valley, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So did you go to university or no?
Yes.
Yeah, where'd you go?
University of Alabama, Huntsville.
University of Alabama. So where were you the year before you went to the University of Alabama?
Back in India.
In India. Where in India?
Bangalore.
In Bangalore. Yeah, I've been to Bangalore too. So I imagine when you were in Bangalore and you heard this word Alabama and you said University of Alabama, I bet you there was some part of you that was afraid to get on that big airplane, fly across the ocean, go to the deep south and hang out in Alabama and go to university there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But you went anyways, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Because you trusted that this was a step forward, because you trusted that this was a truth, because you trusted that you needed to face this new world if you were going to open into a greater reality than the reality you knew before in Bangalore. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Divine Mother is wanting to show you a whole nother university. And so I'm going to invite you to have the same level of faith and trust that you had when you got on that airplane and you flew from Bangalore to Alabama. And I'm just smiling because that's a big shift. That's a big shift to go from Bangalore to Alabama. Yeah. And so I want you to trust, my dear. Is that something you can play with?
Yes, but hope it is easy. And initially, the meditation was blissful and good. Then it's hurting actually. The body is hurting, the neck is hurting, the head is hurting.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of pain.
So that's pointing out that more energy is coming online. That's what's causing the pain, because there's more energy that's here. But to help with that, we don't go backwards. I'm going to invite you to do something crazy, which is to keep opening. To keep opening. Despite the pain. Because something greater is going to come online. And I imagine, like when you flew and you landed in Alabama, your first thought might have been, I want to go back to Bangalore. Like, did you have that thought?
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you go? Did you run back home right away? No. No, you stuck with it. And I bet you it was hard, right?
Yes.
Being around all those big Alabama folk, right? Yeah. And let me tell you, like the people in Alabama, they probably look like giants compared to the people in India, don't they? Yeah. Yeah. Because there's some big fellas, in Alabama. When I was in India, everyone was like my size or smaller. But you go to Alabama, I'm like the smallest guy in Alabama. Everyone's just like, they're just gigantic. They're so big. And so you probably had a thought, I want to go back home. And you probably felt homesick and lonely and maybe I don't really fit in here. And see, all these same things are going to be true with the Kundalini. At first, opens and it's going to be difficult and painful and awkward and confusing. And you might say, I don't understand this. It was blissful at first. It seemed like a great idea at first, but then all this difficulty came. But that's not a reason, to turn around and quit or to throw in the towel. We have to remember you're opening to the grace and the intelligence of God. And so we go forward, my dear. We go forward, opening into the light, into the light. Now, I'm going to encourage you, if you're a Kundalini person and you're starting to have all these symptoms and these experiences, I'm going to encourage you to come to my Kundalini group on Wednesdays. And we do a meditation that focuses on getting the energy flowing and getting it flowing in a way where it stabilizes and it kind of clear out some of these blockages. And so that can be helpful for you. If you can come to some of those groups. And then furthermore, I'm going to encourage you, to come, if you can, like keep showing up to these groups and come to the retreat that's coming up. It's one of the things that retreats do when we start opening to this energy and we give ourselves to it. Oftentimes, like some of the blockages kind of move out of the way. We start to open to a greater level of consciousness and things start flowing in a more fluid way, more stable way. And it can be helpful. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Well, anything else?
Why does it hurt actually? Like, why do we get headaches? Like,
Yeah.
meditation is a good thing, but why is it hurting?
Well, you're pointing out something funny. So our ego says if something feels bad, it makes a conclusion that it is bad.
It's hurting.
Well, it hurts. It hurts. But once something hurts, it doesn't mean it's bad. Like my little girl, like she has all these pains in her knees and in her legs. And the reason she has pains in her knees and in her legs is not because something bad is happening. It's because she's growing. And so she has growing pains. And so she has physical pain from growing. And so the same is true on the spiritual path. As our consciousness grows and expands, there can be pain there. There can be growing pain. And it's very confusing because we're like, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. And sometimes like we have just like a bunch of junk within us. And by junk, I mean negative thoughts, or we have limiting thoughts, like a thought that I'm just a little human ego. And if you have a thought that's I'm just a little human ego, and the light of the Divine Mother comes into you and says, no, you're something much greater. Sometimes this light of the Divine Mother has to burn, like literally burn, like cook, put pressure on our limiting thoughts, our limited view of our consciousness. And it can create some real difficulty. for our ego. Like as our ego is being dissolved, sometimes it feels wonderful and blissful. Sometimes it feels like, I hate to say it, but I'm going to, sometimes it feels like we're being burned alive. But really what's being burned alive is just the thing that is old, the thing that is obsolete, the thing that's dying off, so that something greater can come forward, or something true can start to wake up within us. And sometimes that's really uncomfortable. And again, like just how, like, let me ask you, are you a citizen now here in the US?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And so like part of, I don't know how to say this the right way, like part of like your Indianness, right? Like part of that had to die and give way for you now to be an American, right? Like part of it, like you had to let go of some of it. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying like just some of it had to give way for this other thing to come online. And again, like that's uncomfortable, and you might have to grieve. You might have to, sadness about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think even I can feel the identity dissolving as a mom, as a wife, as an employee. I can feel that dissolving, and I'm kind of trying to hold it tight, and it is going, and I'm holding,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
war going on within me. I
Yeah,
don't know
no,
how
it's a
to
lot.
war.
So this is what I'm going to encourage you to do, is I'm going to encourage you not to hold it tight, but to hold it loosely. To hold it loosely. So you said you're a mother, right?
Yes.
How old are your kids?
12, 12.
Yeah, just one kid. 12. 12. Now, is it a boy or a girl?
Boy.
Boy, yeah. So a 12-year-old boy, like he needs a mom, right? But like when he was 2, he really needed a mom. And maybe you were, nursing him and taking care of him and feeding him and, taking care of everything. And so like when he's, between 0 and 2 or 0 and 5, like you have to be a super mom. You have to be like so much of a mom. But when that boy gets to be 12, you need to be less of a mom. Like it's okay to dissolve some of that. When he's 13, he's not going to want you too much. When he's 16, he's going to say, Mom, where are the keys to the car? And, where's dinner or whatever it is, and he's going to need less and less for you to be a mom as he gets older. And that's a good thing. But if you try to hold on to that ego identity of being a mother, like you were when he was 1, when he's 20, like that's going to be a real problem. That's going to be a real problem. And so you see, like, it's okay, like as we grow, just to soften and to let go, of the egoic identity of being a mom. Now, let me tell you this, like, I'm a father. I'm always going to be a father, but I don't need to hold on to being a father. I just trust, like, when I need to be a father, I can be a father. But most of the time, I could just be myself, and I could be empty, and I could be free. And then occasionally, my kids need me to show up and to do something real fatherly for them. But like, I don't need to always be in the father role with them. Like if we think of a father's like always like telling the kid how to do it and fixing things and this and that. They don't need me to do that all the time. That gets to be a pain in the butt. Sometimes the best thing a father can do is just sit back and do nothing and let the kid be a kid. Let life be life. And so I'm going to invite you just to play with these roles as they begin to dissolve. Trust that it's okay. Trust that it's okay. Now, fundamentally, you're going to feed your son, you're going to take care of him, but he doesn't need mom like revolving around him at every moment anymore. He just needs a little bit of mom, a little bit of mom. And what you'll find is the more you let the solidity of those roles dissolve, what you'll find is the Divine Mother will begin to flow through you, and then she'll move through you. And when you need to be a mom, you'll be a mom totally. And when you need to be an employee, you'll be an employee totally. When you need to be you, you will be you totally. And there's this fluidity and flexibility about being human and about being divine. And you'll find that we don't have to be real rigid in any sense of identity. And so this is something I'm going to invite you to play with, my dear. So I want you to just get comfortable. So you keep meditating. When this energy comes, see if you can soften and trust. When you start to dissolve, see if you can soften and trust. And every now and then you reach down, you touch the earth, you touch your body, you say, okay, it's still here. Everything's okay. No one's going to die. No one's going to die. No one's going to die. Okay, my dear? Okay, so good to see you. And hopefully I'll see you again sometime soon, all right? Okay. All right, much love to you. Much love. We can talk again. All right. Okay, well, it looks like it went way over time. Well, let me just see if there's one more. Let me get to this question real quick, because Jagger, he sent me a long email here. Hi, Craig. I've noticed this week I've been experiencing more bliss and openness and feeling a little more grounded. It's wanting to connect with people, which is beautiful because I think I've created a lot of fear around being open with people over the years. And so that would be a projection. That would be a projection where we just project that we have to be fearful around being open with others. And he goes on to write why he has this. I've always had trouble my whole life focusing on things. I was even in special classes in school because of it. And of course, there's a relationship to past traumas as well. I feel like when I'm focusing, it's completely letting go of my sense of self, which seems scary because in the past, I took a mental break for a few months and just could be with the experience. I was running the whole time through that experience and couldn't be with it, and think it's also related. My question is regarding how to unravel this in a healthy, safe way where I can continue to allow my awareness to come online, not feel like I'm going to dissolve or cease to exist, or like I'm having another mental break. Thank you. Yeah. So I can say this, and this is, true with what I was speaking about with the last person, Jagger, is anytime we open to a new way of being, it often feels like we're going crazy or we're going to break down and fall apart, because what is falling apart is the old way of being. And so we have to get comfortable to some degree with our former sense of self falling apart, falling away, and or dissolving. So anytime we make a step, like a big step in evolution, and for you, like it is in this case, it's you being open and close to others. Like if that's something new for us, the old part of us that says like I just need to be independent and just here on my own by myself where I'm safe, like that has to crumble a little bit. Like that false sense of safety that our ego gives us, we have to let it crumble. Now your question was, well, how do I do this in a healthy way, in a safe way? Well, the easiest way, the most basic way, is just to go slow about it, to go slow. And so we start, like if we're just, beginning to connect with others, beginning to connect more fully with the outside world, we go slow. We just go into relationships slow. And we choose to open to people who are safe. Now, let me tell you something about life. Sometimes when we have a trauma, life does this funny thing. Like, let's say we're with someone and they hurt us in a particular way, and we break up with that person. Often the first person God will send us again, like the next, like let's say we have a boyfriend or what, a girlfriend, and she hurts us in a certain way. Maybe she tells lies. Let's just say that, just to use a silly example. When we go out into the world and try to find, another loving relationship again, there's a good chance we will meet that same person, like a person who also tells lies. This is just something that evolution does, is it kind of tests you. Anytime you make a leap forward, you say, I don't want any more liars in my life. You go out into the world, often the first person you meet is going to be another liar. And again, I wish I picked a different example as a liar, but this is what I'm choosing. Because life has these two great forces, the force of habit and the force of growth. In order to make a step forward, you have to see it, like see, oh, this person is unsafe, and say, no, I do not want this. Then we go back home. And when we go back home, we could easily say, oh, look, see, the whole world is full of liars and people who want to take advantage of me. But of course, that's not the truth. We have a conversation with God and we say, God, bring me something new. I want a greater life. And you go out into the world and you use a little discernment. And pretty soon what you find is some good, honest people coming into your life. Something different. And then the question is can you be courageous enough to open your heart to that which is good? Can you open your heart to that which is safe? Can you open your heart to that which is true? And this will require you to surrender your fear and to have some trust, which is the exact same thing I said to the last person. Is anytime we take a step forward, we have to say no to that which is old, no to the habitual thing, no to the known, like the thing we know, like these people who traumatized you, these people who have overwhelmed you with their neurosis. We have to say no to the repetition of that. But then simultaneously, we have to be willing to have the courage to say yes to that which is good and true, that which is a step forward. That is going to require courage. It's going to require that you breathe more deeply. It's going to require that you have faith and trust and hope. And let me assure you, even if you do go out into the world and you find the repetition, you take the bait, you fall on your face, you're like, oh, see, this person hurt me also. Again, can you find the strength to say no to that? And then to try again. Having a sense of hope and faith that God is in your life, that God does love you, that there are people out here in this world who are safe. Now, safety is an interesting thing. I could go on and on about safety, but sometimes in our modern day, we want everyone to be like, we're so offended and we want everyone to be so safe and so politically correct and so perfect. And it's just like, we're all so traumatized. Like sometimes we have to have like a greater sense of a backbone and just say, I'm going to go into this world in a reasonable way. And I'm going to do my best to open to reasonably good people. Like, no one's going to be perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. No one's going to be perfect. Like everyone's going to have, a little confusion, a little trauma, a little projection, a little whatever. But you try to find individuals that connect with that are reasonably good. Reasonably good, reasonably sane, reasonably healthy, reasonably politically correct, or whatever it is. And if we find ourselves, a little traumatized by life, like that's part of life here on planet Earth. Like we need to be tough in this world. But at the same time, I'm going to encourage you to take care of yourself and to have discernment around who you're connecting with. But discernment arises from a place of truth and clarity. For most of us who've been traumatized, our discernment arises out of fear. And everyone we look at is terrifying. Everyone is a racist. Everyone is out to get us. Everyone is bad. And it's just like, oh my God. And it's like, then we're just alone by ourselves, in our little bubble. And it's just like, no, this is not the way to live. Then we become, one of these folks who can't leave home. And then when we're at home, it's like our parents are traumatizing us. So it's like that's not the way to live. At some point, we just say, I can do this. There is a place for me here on planet Earth. There are good people. I'm going for it with trust and faith and openness and a good, clear sense of truth and discernment as I connect with this world. A good, clear sense of discernment. There are bad people on planet Earth. Of course, there are terrible people. There are racists. There are fools. There are people who are out to get us. But there's also a lot of good people, normal human beings who are growing just like we are growing. And I trust that it's okay that I am strong enough to go out into this world and to play, to find, and to discover, to connect with, to be close to get to know, to develop deeper levels of relationship and intimacy. With my fellow human beings. And so anyways, Jagger, go forward with your head held high, trusting, opening, loving, soothing your pain, soothing the trauma, being with yourself, loving yourself. Oh my God, please, have a sense of discernment. Have a sense of discernment in this world. Okay. So much love to each of you. For those of you who showed up late, a retreat coming up November 3rd through the 5th. That's the first weekend in November. That's 2023, if anyone's listening at a later date. So much love to y'all. See y'all soon. Good night, everyone. Bye for now.